Welcome to the Fandotech Friday 15, Mission Technical Reconnaissance. If you have any questions during the presentation, type them into your chat window. This week, our presenter, Dan Kaupp, is sharing best practices for securing your business networks. Take it away, Dan.
All right, so good morning, everyone. Glad you could join us. We'll be talking today about IT security tips for the business network. So network security in the cloud. Today, and in the past several years, what we've seen is network security becoming increasingly critical for the small to medium-sized businesses, mostly because of this transition to the cloud era. More and more, we're moving more data into the cloud. We're taking services or applications and moving them into the cloud. And this all to make our data more available to our employees, to our customer base. And as we do this, we need to keep our thoughts on security. And security that we can balance for the convenience of the employees, as well as this need for strong security to protect our business intelligence and protect our data, any data that we have to run our business, and so on. Here at Fandotech, we always take this layered approach to network security. And what we've done here is we've kind of broken this up into sort of a inside and outside defenses. So over here on the left, we see user account policy, server and workstation antivirus, as well as email filtering. And I kind of try to, in my mind, I put those in the left side as internal defenses. So things to kind of protect end users from themselves, or your employees from themselves, and then likewise protect the business assets. And then I put firewall, IPS, and content filtering over on external defenses. This is the thing to keep Mr. Hacker outside your network, and keep your employees productive, and keep good hold of your any personal or confidential information that you have, as well as staying productive. And so we'll delve a little bit more into this sort of inside-outside mentality when it comes to network security. So firewall, outer layers, and here we have available bandwidth. So when we talk firewall and we talk protection from all the bad people on the outside, we're looking at IPS and content filtering. And basically either applications, software, hardware that we're putting in place to keep everything outside the network, outside your internal LAN that should be outside the LAN. And
excuse me, Dan, before you move on with that, could you define for us what the IPS is?
IPS, Intrusion Prevention Service. If you think back to the last slide, we did mention that the Intrusion Prevention Service is there as kind of additional service that firewalls now do. So firewalls, back in the day, 5, 10 years ago, I don't know how far back in the day that was, but they weren't stateful. So they would do a good job at blocking specific ports inbound to a network. But say that you are making a connection outbound from inside your network, then the firewall would allow certain things based on the connection that you make going out. So firewalls today have gotten a bit smarter with this intrusion prevention service, where they're actually stateful, and they know that while you've made a connection on port 80, they shouldn't just allow everything on port 80. So that's kind of a little bit on what IPS is and its functionality. So IPS, that's inherent to every firewall device that we install for our clients, as well as run here in our data centers. So a nice kind of side note to running a firewall, having IPS in place, content filtering in place, is this ability to optimize your bandwidth usage. So not only can you keep everyone out that should be out and your employees productive, but you can optimize your bandwidth so that you're not paying for bandwidth that you don't actually need to perform your business process. So what we like to say is, go ahead and sit down, make a business case for the network traffic that you're going to allow. For instance, you might have several inbound services, some common ones. Everyone allows mail in, VPN, web, traffic inbound, specific applications that you may have. Sit down and make a business case. So say we're allowing employees to access their mail from outside the network. So we have port 443 open, we have port 80 open, we have port 25 open. Maybe it makes more sense to get like a centralized platform and do something over Citrix, or just allow VPN traffic in, and in that way you're only allowing one specific type of traffic versus the three types of traffic in web and SSL and mail. So really sit down and understand what services you're allowing in and how you can make that better. And then on the flip side of that, cost savings is always there. You can make employee production better, and that's reliant on effective bandwidth management. People browsing to Facebook all day or streaming videos on YouTube, that's going to affect profitability and employee production levels.
So Dan, I noticed on there, I've got a question for you. On the Facebook slice, there's a little mini slice inside of it for Farmville. Can you tell us sort of how our router, our IPS system, is able to tell the difference between just Facebook usage, which companies might allow its employees to use, and the difference between that and, say, Farmville? How does it know?
Yeah, so this is a nice kind of leap forward in recent years on firewalling and back to this IPS, intrusion prevention, where the firewall is getting smarter and it's able to actually discern between Farmville and Facebook traffic, even if it's within HTTPS or SSL, which before, in latter years, it was unable to tell Farmville. So the firewall units that we're installing now is able to actually look at some of the HTML code and discern Farmville traffic from Facebook traffic. So you could actually deny users, your employees, from doing Farmville or any specific component of Facebook that you don't agree with, but allow them some access to social media. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it does. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that's the outer layers. The inner layers we broke out into filtering email, gaining spam protection from that. And so an important thing to note here is that while you're gaining spam protection, you're also gaining the antivirus functionality. So you're protected with your server and workstation antivirus, but you're not protected from an email that comes in that may contain a virus. If a user clicks on that, you're still going to be infected, whether you have these other things in place or not. So a good spam filter, email filter, is going to pick out those pieces of mail that contain a virus and not allow them free reign of your network. So in addition to that, remember layers. Security policy and security practices are only as good as the whole. So as well as filtering spam and email, protect your server and your workstations with up-to-date industry standard antivirus. And then your end users. End users will take the easy road. So if you don't enforce password changes, if you don't enforce strong passwords, they're all going to keep that same password, weak password, for 5, 10 years, and that can allow a hole in your security strategy. So over there on the right, we see this graphic with strong versus weak passwords, special characters, minimum length. Enforcing changes every 90 days is kind of a standard that most companies are adopting, and then a very strong password. And back to what I was saying at the beginning with ease of use versus strong security. There's a trade-off there and kind of a fine line.
Now I have a question here. In the first step where you said to filter email and gain spam protection, is spam protection included with every application that filters email?
Not necessarily, although
okay, so that's optional.
It is, and there's varying levels of spam protection as well as filtering email. And the people that spam, the spammers as we like to call them out there in the world, they constantly update how they're spamming, the types of spam that they're sending, and so that's why we have this keep your security up to date idea, where you go back and revisit what you have, all 6 layers of your security strategy. You revisit those and make sure that you're still up to date, and you're if you're using a Bayesian filter or something that learns spam as it goes, are your users managing their spam? Are you managing it at a global level? So all questions you should be asking, and a lot of times certain spam filters are only as good as what you put into them, and so revisit that, keep that up to date. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Dan.
All right, excellent. So some final thoughts just to start to wrap up here. The cloud, as we transition more and more of our data and our processes and our applications into the cloud, security becomes a much bigger concern. Gone are the days of the mainframe, and no one can access the mainframe unless they have a dumb terminal sitting inside your building. Now they never have to leave their house to access your data if your security is not intact. So security becomes much bigger concern now with the cloud. Remember the layered approach, that's crucial. Having a firewall in place, that's a good start, but that is not the end-all be-all of security strategy. And then keep revisiting your security. What was good for security last year may be irrelevant or antiquated at this point. So keep that up to date. Keep looking at that. Balance convenience with the need for security. Employees, they're going to complain if you implement a password policy. We've all seen it a number of times, but you need that security. And then if you're looking at transitioning some of your services to the cloud, or you already have, can you trust your cloud vendors? Are your cloud vendors SAS 70 certified? Are they SSAE 16 certified? So take a look at that, and keep that in mind. Revisit that, and hold your vendors to the standards that you hold yourself to. And with that, I'll transition back to Mr. MC. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you, Dan, and thank you to all of today's participants. If we didn't answer all of your questions today, we'll circle back with you independently. This webinar will be available for viewing on our blog at blog.fandotech.com and on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Fandotech. And join us next week for another Fandotech Friday 15 Tech Recon, where we'll be actually interviewing a client to learn how they survived the tornado disaster earlier this year. Register today by visiting blog.fandotech.com and clicking on the Friday 15 logo. Again, thank you, everybody. This has been a presentation of Fandotech.